So good morning, everyone. My name is Michael, and I teach HAS, STEM, and digital technologies. Thank you, David and Dylan, for the opportunity to share our journey with you. It's been a genuine privilege to share our findings and our experience with Nurture as part of the SEWA pilot program. I have been so bold as to set some learning intentions for our brief time together today. And in the next 5 minutes, I hope to share the staff and student learning journey with Nurture at Seton, the real world impact that we've experienced, and if time permits, a glimpse of some student feedback samples. So from the beginning, we recognized the importance of building a cross-curricular team spanning multiple year levels. And this was essential for genuine staff buy-in and a deeper shared understanding of AI's potential in education. So we quite quickly established the Nurture at Seton team. And as a Microsoft Showcase school, our staff are active users of Teams. And so we had the additional benefit of not having to sell another platform to our teachers. I certainly deliberately included some of our more skeptical voices. And one standout example was our head of English, who was initially AI's biggest critic. This is someone who now has had the opportunity to present with me to staff on how Nurture reduces teacher workload while improving student outcomes. Our implementation rather brought technical and cultural challenges as expected, and we embrace these because in order to drive meaningful change, you have to break eggs, you have to be brave, and you have to listen to people, especially when you disagree. So some students were certainly weary of submitting work to AI, particularly the tech-savvy ones who raised concerns about intellectual property and training data. And one student in particular taught me all about delineation. And some staff were worried that feedback would be too generous. And my response to them has always been that you are the pilot of this entire process. You set the parameters of assessment, of grading, of feedback, and you control how generous the feedback is. Early on, we did also experience some reliability issues with the platform, with some staff reporting that their sessions would time out, or some students experienced inconsistencies with submitting different file types. But I would add that the feedback was promptly actioned by the Nurture team, and the most significant improvements to the platform were quite evident following the major updates to services on April 30th. And I suppose the greatest outcome for our college as being part of the pilot program has been the reduction of teacher workload while improving student outcomes. Additionally, there's a renewed sense of agency in the assessment and feedback process. And I'll talk more about agency a bit later on. But it is certainly our position that we as a college, that we need to be on the right side of history. Here we have some of our colleagues protesting the introduction and rollout of calculators, fearing that they would be the death of mathematics because these teachers failed to see the calculator as what it could be, which is a co-pilot and an assisted learning tool. And so on to the real world impact. First and foremost, I think it's very important that we're not just talking about tools, we're talking about language. And our language is very important in this space. We're not using AI to mark our work. We are leveraging AI to enhance the feedback process and improve student outcomes. So teachers have become facilitators of timely, engaging, personalized feedback. That is one way that roles have shifted. The quality of the feedback that's being provided is very in-depth and very supportive and very helpful for our students. I teach a number of classes, and never before have I been able to give such high quality feedback on formative tasks in preparation for summative assessments. I would also add to the formative tasks that I did a task recently whereby I introduce students to the core concepts or the core requirements for analyzing a source. And I'll show you that later on in the example, but it basically gave students critical feedback in regards to their skills. And so that's what I want to really emphasize here is that Nurture is an enhancer of skill development, whether it's research or writing or planning or assessment. It's not about rote learning, it's about skill development. And so for me, Nurture is representative and indicative of a true 21st century learning tool. There's tremendous insight that comes from using Nurture because I can have a snapshot of my entire class who can feed back to me on how they felt about the assessment and how they went with it. And that allows me to quickly gauge the learning journey of my students in areas that need attention and perhaps areas that don't. Another real world impact that I've witnessed and I've discussed with other colleagues in the pilot program is the engagement of a range of learners. It is so often the case that the top 10% of learners in a classroom dive in and they're wholly invested and they're inquisitive about their feedback and they enjoy receiving feedback, while 85 to 90% of students dread the idea of getting feedback and find it to be quite a confronting experience. I'm not witnessing that with Nurture because it's such a safe platform for students to have dialogue with me and to give feedback to their parents. I think that our parents and guardians are very much time poor in the 21st century, and that with both parents working, it's even harder to keep track of your own child's learning journey at school. And having a dashboard and having the feedback and having the insight of student reflection is just a tremendous way to promote dialogue with students, teachers, and parents. And if parents are the number one educators of our students, then they have to be involved in this process. They have to be involved in the conversation. And so on to a formative submission. I have a task here that I used. And in the interest of time, we just want to showcase one student's learning experience to include the task, the submission, the feedback, and the reflection. And this formative task focused, as I mentioned earlier, very much on skill development. What we're looking at is the ability to observe, to identify, to decode, to understand, and to comment on. We're not looking at rote learning, even though Nurture can certainly handle rote learning and rote or specific marking keys. It's very much about skill development. And so I'm much more interested in it because of that. This is the submission that the students gave. It is a strong submission. They've really excelled in identifying those 5 steps of source analysis. So observing, identifying, decoding, understanding, and commenting on the cartoon. And when they submitted this, the Nurture was able to actually look at the marking key, look at the document questions, and provide comprehensive feedback. Now, in terms of giving feedback to students, I think it's vitally important that we focus really on 2 key things. What students want to know, what their parents want to know, and what teachers should know is what went well for that child and how could it be improved? What would make it even better? And so the feedback that you're seeing is highly relevant to the student submission with indirect quotes, extracts, proper nouns that the student has identified. The even better section celebrates their success while offering constructive feedback with such things as exploring more speech and emphasizing underlining humor. And this specific feedback has allowed the student to sharpen their saw prior to a summative task. And I would add that it's kind feedback, it's pastoral. And my litmus test was simple. Would I want my own children to receive this feedback? And my answer is unequivocally yes. And in terms of the reflection, the student didn't do a very sufficient reflection on this task. So I wrote a direct message and I CC'd the pastoral care teacher. And I said, listen, student, I need you to write me some feedback in relation to the task. They weren't able to update their initial submission. So here we have the student's reflection on the task via direct message on sector, which highlights the feedback helped me understand the strengths and weaknesses with source analysis and made me feel more comfortable. I'll just move that for our assessment. It helps me know where the student, what to study and use simple, easy language to clear points of improvement. And so here we have a student that is engaging directly with the feedback they've received. They're able to revisit the initial question. They're able always to see their own submission and make parallels between the task, the submission, the feedback, and then, of course, reflect on their findings. But look, folks, in the interest of time, I think I'll leave it there. But thank you again to David and to Dylan and to the Nurture team for your support and for your guidance throughout the pilot program. It's been a really transformative journey for us, and we're very excited to continue to see where we end up. Thank you.